name is Francine Putkowski, and I'm the author of the book, Love Wants to Find You. Thank you very much for joining me. Today I'd just like to discuss one of the things that I did, and I discuss many more things in my book, but one thing that I did when I was literally on my knees in darkness following one of my divorces. I've had two. So I was in that dark place, and I'm sure some of you guys can relate to that, where I just did not even want to get out of bed in the morning. And one of the things that my boss actually told me was that I needed to keep the continuity and the routine of my everyday. And the first day after my husband had exited our home for good, the very next morning I had a big case at work that I needed to be there for. There were lawyers coming in for depositions, and I knew I had to be there. This was in the making for months. And so, like a robot, I went into work that day because I knew I had to fulfill my obligation, but I don't really remember much. I know that I answered the questions very well. I was very well prepped for the case, and so I know I did a good job, and then I drove home. The very next workday, however, was different because I didn't have this big deposition pending, and I just couldn't get out of bed. And I used to drop my children off at my parents' house before I went to work, and my parents called and said, "Where are you? The kids aren't here." And I was hysterical on the phone. I just didn't want to go to work. And so my parents said, "Just bring the children over here and we'll sit and have a cup of coffee with you and talk to you." Now, I'm the type of person, I was never late for work. I always went to work no matter what. Even if it was snowing, icy, I would attempt to go to work. That's just the type of person that I was and that I am still. So it's now like 9 or 10 in the morning, and I was supposed to report to work at 8 a.m. and I had an hour and a half drive. So I used to drop my kids off pretty early. And so I went over to my parents' house, and they got the kids situated, and my children were very young at the time, so they really didn't understand what was going on. My son, I think, was 3 months old, and my daughter was just turning 4 years old. So my father took the children and was occupying them in a separate room, and I can remember just falling to the marble floor inside my parents' house, just devastated, and not knowing how I was going to ever work again, how I was going to ever live again, how I was ever going to breathe again with how much pain I felt that I was in. And my parents, of course, I'm Italian, and so they tried the tough Italian love, like, you have to go to work, and I just wasn't having it. And I called one of my friends at work, who was a paralegal there, and she answered the phone, and she was very sympathetic to me because she had known what had happened from the day before. And I was talking to her, and she had said that the CEO of the company, who I reported directly to, wanted to speak with me. And of course, so, you know, he was my boss. And so I took the phone call, and he said, "I want you to come into work today. I want you to be very careful driving in, and I don't care when you get here. You take as long as you need to get here, but I want you to come into work." And so, of course, because he wasn't my parent, he was my boss, I did what he said. And so I drove the hour and a half to work, and he and one of the corporate counsel were waiting outside for me, and they ushered me into one of the big conference rooms there. And I was also the type of person that kind of took pride in the way I looked. I tried to always dress very businesslike and professional, and I did not look like that on this day. My eyes were swollen, I had makeup running down my face, I wasn't dressed in my normal attire. I just, you know, gave Ruff a new look that day. So they ushered me in there, and they proceeded to be very kind and compassionate, and they sat down on a yellow piece of paper, and they started writing things down on what I needed to do to try to organize my thoughts for me because I wasn't thinking clearly. And when we were done with that, my boss said, "I want you to get up tomorrow morning, and again, I want you to drive safely. You get here when you get here, but you need to keep your regular routine." And this is what my parents had also told me. And so on the way home, I started to think about it, and it was tough. It was really tough to get up and get the kids around and get them fed and get them dressed and get them over to my parents and drive to work. But I did it because that's what, you know, people were telling me to do. And I really just wanted to lay in bed with the lights out, the blinds pulled down. But I knew, you know, my boss had told me I had to come to work. And now looking back, that was the most kind thing that my parents and my boss and my friends could have told me to do is to keep your normal routine. It's the first thing you have to do on your steps to recovery. You have to get out of bed, even on the weekends. You must make your bed, take your shower, and get fully dressed. I would just lay around in my pajamas all day in bed with the blinds all pulled when I didn't have my children. Their biological father had custody every other weekend. So on those weekends, I just would hibernate and not get out of bed. And so the first thing that you need to do is, if you're in this position where you're kind of struggling and you're on your knees in darkness, get up, do your regular routine, take your shower, get dressed on the weekends, and try to do and stay within your regular daily routine of things. And eventually, after a few weeks of just doing that robotically, you will start to feel better. I remember living literally minute to minute. The minutes just would drag on and on and on. And after a while of doing your regular routine, someone might say something funny at work and you'll catch yourself laughing. And maybe that's only for a minute that day, but you did laugh for the one time. And those times, trust me, get longer and longer and longer and longer. And I thought I would never be happy. I thought I would never laugh again. I would never be in love again. Nobody would ever love me again. But that's just not the case. So, get up, get out of bed, make the bed, take a shower, get dressed, stay with that regular routine. Trust me, I'm telling you, that's the first step on the road to recovery. Thank you very much for listening to my vlog. And if you are interested in purchasing my book, Love Wants to Find You, you can do so online at Amazon. And you can buy the Kindle on Amazon or the paperback. And you can also purchase my book at local Barnes & Noble stores around the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. And you can also purchase my book online at Barnes & Noble, and you can purchase their Nook version or their paperback version. Thank you.